Quick question for you. Have you ever been to Mad Dan's? I'm gonna guess you probably answered no to that question, and that's just fine. Personally, I've only been there once, and it was a fairly average experience, so why would I even bring it up? Well, to be fairly cliche, Mad Dan's is not really about the destination, but rather the journey. If you know me, you know I'm a car enthusiast. So are my friends. We like cars, but I think a big part of that comes down to the actual act of driving. Within that act, there really are a lot of aspects to enjoy. Perhaps it's the therapeutic effect you can get from aimlessly wandering the streets. Maybe it's the experience of listening to music with the windows down and a bunch of friends in the car. A fan favorite is the feeling of being pushed back into your seat as the car accelerates. One can also consider the satisfying feeling of going through flowing corners, finding a rhythm with the road and steering the car along. Obviously, there's a lot to enjoy, and believe me, my friends and I enjoy it plenty. Well, actually, we enjoy every one of those but corners. We just don't get those around here in Illinois. Makes a lot of sense, though. Illinois is a very flat state, and as I discovered on my Canada trip, so are a lot of the states. Somehow, though, we needed to find a good driving road near us. Surprisingly, there's a group of people that share this same problem. Ferrari owners. I guess when you own a machine created purely for the enjoyment of driving, you'd want to actually be able to use it for this purpose. Lucky for us, they talked about this publicly on message boards. Where are there any good roads near Chicago, one of the biggest cities in America? One user answered this question giving not a road, but an area. Wilmot. I hopped in the car and started driving. Punched Wilmot into my GPS and went straight for it. Literally, I went straight for about 45 minutes north. Wilmot is in Wisconsin, not that far over the border of Illinois. You go through plenty of towns on the way, but gradually they begin to shrink in size and increase in distance from each other. Eventually, it was pretty much only fields surrounding me. Then, as I got closer, I was pretty amazed at the fairly dramatic change in landscape. The flat, vast farms quickly dropped off, and hills and trees began to invade the scenery. To my pleasure, this landscape began to shape the road. Elevation changes were becoming more frequent, and a path cut through the trees began to weave ever so slightly. This is what I was looking for. My GPS let me know I had made it to Wilmot. I ended up pulling into a small town shortly after being notified. Perfect for my purposes, there was a gas station. This provided for a quick rest spot and some snacks. I decided to venture out further down the road I came into town in, and I was greeted by a four-way stop. Going straight hadn't failed me so far, so that's what I chose. Man, I'm glad I did. The pavement had just been redone. I think anyone could appreciate that, especially from the roads around Chicago. Immediately you get greeted with a left-handed sweeping turn. I was already feeling good, and I had only started. Following that turn, you find yourself going uphill into some trees. Shortly into this area, the exit is a quick right turn, immediately followed by one to the left. Breaking out of the trees, you begin to go up another hill and to the right, and I noticed it was pretty steep. At this point, I am beyond thrilled. It's been a good 5 minutes of exactly what I came looking for. Anyways, get to the top of the hill, and like a roller coaster, you end up going down the other side, sweeping to the left. All of a sudden, you're driving alongside a river. At this point, you could catch your breath and cruise for a bit. Ahead, I saw the road leading into some more trees, so I knew it was going to get interesting. It did. A few more bends and twists, followed by another straight into a final right turn. At the very end, it is an entrance to the highway and a little patch off to the side of the road. Feeling fully content with what I just experienced, I immediately turned around in the patch and went to go do it in reverse. I found some curves. Finally, a good driving road. Of course, I wasn't the only one who wanted to experience this. I had to share. This is where the second part of the story comes in. The Mad Dan's part. I went about calling up my friends with the new discovery. Unsurprising for a bunch of high school kids at the time, gas was tight. They were excited, but a bit skeptical. Is it really worth it? Of course it is. So myself and a less reluctant friend drove the rest up there to prove my point. All I heard from them when we got there was, "I wish I brought my car." So run number 3 was when we finally got to enjoy what we'd been looking for. The day couldn't have been better, and 3 cars set off carrying 4.5 of us. This time I've been delegated to navigating and keeping us all together, so I rode along at the front. We left earlier than we had before. It was going to be a whole day trip to see what else Wilmot had to offer. We had quite the variety of cars and people. The 4.5 of us include myself and my friends Matt and Mike, and the familiar Chris, along with his dog, named Nemo. Nemo rode shotgun with Chris in his Nissan 350Z that badly needed a brake service. Mike brought along the largest car of the bunch in his BMW 3 Series, while Matus and I, as mentioned before, were in the lead with a fairly modified Scion FRS. Eventually, we made it to the small town in Wilmot and collected ourselves before setting out to further explore these great roads. Exploring we sure did. A good 2 to 3 hours was just spent driving around. It was at this time that I came to notice how everyone was able to enjoy driving on these roads in their own way. A few times as I've driven around, I've noticed where the car felt off for the road I was on, like the wrong tool for a job. A small twisty area is much more suited to a smaller, lower riding car, and similarly I'd argue Chicago highways are a place best suited for cushier riding cars with a bit of power to overtake. This was where I figured a bit of separation would come and the enjoyment levels would differ between my friends out there in Wilmot. I was wrong. The roads, and specifically the first one I had encountered and described, were enjoyed thoroughly by everyone. It was interesting to witness how everyone drove. Matus preferred to attack the corners, trying to carry as much speed through them as possible. Mike, on the other hand, enjoyed it more as a cruise, taking in the sights. Chris was somewhere in the middle of those two, thanks to Nemo flying around the car in his attempt to conserve what little of his brake pads were remaining. Speaking of Nemo, he got hungry, and so did the rest of us. This was where we discovered the next greatest offering of Wilmot. There was a lake. There were 2 lakes, and brilliantly, they were in an area called Twin Lakes. We decided we needed to check them out. This is where we found Mad Dan's. Twin Lakes was really just a nice place to be. We parked at Lance Park, which was empty with an entire beach, and it was just a short walk to the restaurant. It may not have been the best, but at that moment, Mad Dan's was just the right kind of food to have after a long day. It's where I think we all declared our trip a mission success. From our suburbs out to Wilmot, then to Twin Lakes, I don't think there was a better way to spend the day. We hit the beach for a bit and then took the trip home. It may not have been a cross-country excursion with plenty of twists like my other trips, but I still hold the way to Mad Dan's in pretty high regard. Anyways, thanks for listening. Until next time.
Thank you.